Where'd you come from? Where'd you go? Where'd you come from? Oh, Cotton Eye Joe. Where'd you come from? Where'd you go? Where'd you come from? Oh, Cotton Eye Joe.
So
welcome to another week. We got something a little bit different in that we aren't going to be necessarily talking about who is getting votes and all that kind of stuff. We're going to be talking about the ones that were getting votes previously, but we don't see them getting votes this week.
So the almost famous, as Seth Davis
the ones
would say.
The ones that were famous at one point in time. But again, hello into the top 25. Number 22, UCLA back in the top 25. And number 18, Alabama, taking a huge shot up into the top 25 at number 18. And goodbye to Louisville and Duke. By the way, this is the first time since 1961 that Duke, North Carolina, and Kentucky are not ranked.
You misspelled Duke's name.
Puke, I know. But yeah, first time since 1961 that none of those three teams are in the top 25.
Do you know what that means? West Coast, best coast.
Still ranked number 1 Gonzaga. That's going to stay there for a while, I feel like. And number 25 dropped a little bit, St. Louis. Getting votes, Drake, Boise State, Winthrop, Belmont, Toledo, and Utah State. A whole bunch of teams that were new to the votings right now.
Yeah, Toledo kind of surprised me by being up in there. Because when I looked at their record, okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? I guess they just want to share the wealth, spread the love. But by transitive property, we can now say that Gonzaga is better than Baylor because they beat Kansas by more points.
Right, with that. And it's actually pretty surprising, but still surprising that Baylor is dominant.
Baylor's absolutely
Yes,
a 1B.
It's honestly, mark your calendars for April 5th. It's going to be the championship game between Gonzaga and Baylor, honestly. Like, that's...
Do you think that's a conspiracy why they canceled the game? Is because they wanted to actually have suspense in the season?
So pretty much what I want to go on with this one is kind of do what I was going at the beginning of this, is just a little Cotton Eye Joe, I guess. Where did you guys go?
Well, where did they come from?
Well, we know where they come from.
So where did they go?
But pretty much it's the teams that were getting votes at some point in time in this season, but this week they are not getting votes. I have a couple listed. Last time we saw these teams, their week that they were getting votes, I have at preseason was Northern Iowa and UNC Greensboro. Last time we saw Loyola Chicago was week 3. Last time we saw Western Kentucky, Chattanooga, and Richmond were week 6. BYU was week 8, and this week San Diego State at week 9. So kind of going in order and seeing, are we going to see them again, or what's going to be happening? At least for their votings, we'll probably see a couple of these teams come tournament time, but maybe not so much for voting. We'll kind of see what it is. So the first team, kind of a big surprise this season.
They suck.
Northern Iowa, honestly, is probably the biggest surprise out of these mid-major teams. Started off the season 0-3. The record right now is 3-10, 2-6 within the conference. Big losses, St. Mary's, Utah State, Western Kentucky, Richmond, and Loyola Chicago twice. In their defense, AJ Green, one of their top scorers for the last 2 seasons, and including this season, is out for this entire season after just playing those first 3 games.
But they can lean on their running game and use Joe Mixon to his fullest extent. And Joe Burrow was a good number 1 draft pick. Sorry. Wrong AJ Green. So yeah, Northern Iowa, they've shown some strength in the past. They looked like they were retaining a lot of talent coming into this year.
From last season to this year.
But they just didn't. It just did not pan out. You'd think a team that had played together and had matured in the same program would be able to gel and actually play pretty well.
Even with the exception of AJ Green.
But yet this, probably the most striking stat coming out of Northern Iowa is their defensive issues, which speaks to that inexperience and that and a lack of gelling as a team. So it goes it's very counterintuitive. They are ranked 198th in KenPom, barely cracking the top 200. So they're absolutely a bottom 50% team defensively. They're giving up 74.5 points per game to their opponents, which and then they are scoring at the 259th place. Like
the opponent's scoring is 259, so it's like the most.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's fewest points they're giving up, essentially, is what that ranking
Oh,
is.
so 198 is adjusted defense. 259th is their scoring defense.
Opponent scoring.
Opponent scoring.
So like
Yeah.
they pretty much have the most opponent, like the most. They're giving up the most points on.
They're
defense
roughly
on this season right now.
Yeah.
And then they're scoring offense. They're scoring 70 points a game. Like,
Yeah.
They're losing every game by 4 or 5 points. Essentially, is what that's saying. And even then, like. It's a bigger defensive issue for them, and it's also offensive issues are there as well. I mean, scoring 70 points isn't necessarily bad for college basketball. It's not.
If your
bad.
name's Virginia.
it's not bad.
Or
but
Syracuse.
I would say the bigger stat is their offensive issues, is that they're not necessarily passing the ball all that well, and they're not handling the ball that well. There's 12.1 assists per game and 13.2 turnovers a game that they're giving up.
Yeah.
Like that's not. I mean, yeah, your defense Their defense isn't helping you on the other end, but your offense isn't helping as well.
Well, and turnovers usually turn into points for the other team, so that's also going to hurt you. But I imagine that's probably where AJ Green really hurts them, is they lost a lot of ball security.
Yeah, especially on
production.
the offensive end. And to their fairness, yeah, they were kind of maturing, but there is only 2 seniors in the rotation, so they're gonna have an extra year with a lot of these guys.
Well, COVID, they're even
even with that. So I can see them bouncing back for next year. But unfortunately this year, I don't think we're going to see you again.
Bye-bye.
So then moving on to the next team that we saw last time in the preseason rankings, UNC Greensboro. Right now, 8-5, 3-2 in conference. Their game against Louisville was canceled, and then they split their games versus Wofford. Those are probably like their most quality games that we can probably talk about within their record. Only one guy scoring double-digit points, Isaiah Miller, and he's their only senior on the team.
I mean, if that name was Jimmer Fredette, that would be a different conversation. But when you only have one player scoring in double-digit points, he needs to be in the Player of the Year conversation as well. And he's not.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. And even then, overall, there is more offensive issues I have with Greensboro. Still the same assist turnover stat, 12.5 assists for 13.5 turnovers per game. Not the best field goal shooting, especially for where they are. 40.4% from the field.
But that 28.2 3-point?
Yeah,
no.
And even their free throw shooting basically 2 for 3, 67.7% from the free throw. Not a lot of shooting stats to really say, but they do have a little bit better of a defensive skill set. They're allowing 67.1 points per game, and they are forcing about 16 turnovers per game. So there is a better defensive skill set I see for Greensboro. Again, will we see them back? Probably not until tournament time if they win their conference tournament, I would say.
But they might be able to hold their heads high as being the best UNC team.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably going to be Greensboro, Asheville.
Zing!
All right, so now moving on to a team that I think we could see back maybe for a couple 25 votes. Loyola Chicago, we haven't seen them since week 3, more because they hadn't played a game for 2 or 3 weeks, I thought. But
they had the late start too.
They had a huge late start. I felt like it took us a while to finally talk about them. But so far their season right now, 10-3 overall record, 5-1 within the conference. Notable losses: 1 to Wisconsin, 1 to Richmond, where they rallied back by 20 points. And they lost that game just by 2. Indiana State as well as that loss. I'd say this is a pretty good offensive team that Loyola Chicago has, especially compared to that Final Four run that they had. 51.6% from the field, which is 8th overall. in NCAA and 17.5 assists per game, which is 22nd overall. So it's definitely a very high skill set offensive team that Loyola Chicago has.
They definitely run a good offense.
And their KenPom rankings right now, 35th overall, which is surprising when I'm going to say these next two stats. 53rd adjusted offense on KenPom, 28th adjusted defense. I honestly think that they have a better offensive skill set. But their defensive skill set does hold up with their stats. 14.46 forced turnovers per game. Opponent field goal percentage, 40.9%. And they're giving up 58.7 points per game, which is 6 fewest.
When I see that, what I see is them playing a very slow game with a very stingy man-up defense that forces tough passes. And with that 40.9% shooting, if there's a lapse in defense, the opponent score. But that lapse doesn't happen very often. It's going to be a very similar style to what St. Mary's played for about 10 minutes.
Right. That's where I really imagine this Loyola Chicago team is kind of that.
But they're better than them.
Right. They are. They definitely are. I honestly think, and I don't know what your opinions about this. I honestly think that we will see Loyola Chicago, if they keep up with their record, but again, they're going to have to be facing the Missouri Valley Conference, who has
Richmond and Drake.
No. Richmond's A10. Drake is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I know Loyola Chicago's in a 3-team race for the top.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be an interesting question.
And I think they're going to be the second team in that conference to get the bid to the tournament. I don't think that there's going to be a third team. I think it's going to be between Loyola Chicago and I'm blanking on whoever it is.
The third
team right now. But I think Loyola Chicago will be getting votes by the end of the season again at some point in time. I think that they have a possibility to challenge Drake.
Yeah, and they have a chance to get votes if they maintain their high level of play, and other teams, they're not going to work their way into the top 25. They're going to find themselves there because other teams slip and they don't.
Yeah, they're going to be consistent going forward. So I do think that they have the potential to get back up there. But yeah, Drake. Montana State or not? Missouri State. That's what I was thinking of. It's going to be between Loyola Chicago and Missouri State for the second bid from that conference. I feel like.
Yes, Richmond is leading in their conference that we also talked about.
Now, I'm a little surprised. I'm just going to say this too. I'm a little surprised we haven't really seen Missouri State, but I haven't really looked at what their schedule has been so far this season. But
I remember talking last week that they had some awkward losses.
Okay. All right.
All
right. But yeah, I honestly think that we'll be talking about Loyola Chicago soon.
They'll be getting votes. I don't think they'll get a number.
Right. And then on to our next team, Western Kentucky, who I was really excited about once they got into the top 25, or at least getting votes for the top 25. Their season so far, 11-4, 4-2 within the conference. Notable losses: West Virginia only lost by 6 points. Louisville, they got blown out. And then also notable losses, Charlotte and Louisiana Tech within their conference. Wins: Memphis, Rhode Island, and Alabama. So the number 18 team, Alabama, they got a 2-point win over them. Honestly, great offensive skill set that I'm seeing. 73.9 points. 44.6 field goal, kind of hitting there. But the big one that I will talk about, 80.2% from the free throw line, which is 7th highest. So if you foul them, they're going to be making their shots. Yeah. This is a team that you do not want to foul and put them on a free throw line because they will make those shots.
And I guarantee you that's how they won against teams like Alabama and Memphis.
Right, and definitely kept it close between West Virginia too, because West Virginia could be physical, so they could be getting some fouls, and I would definitely like to look at those stats going forward. And I'm pretty sure Louisville probably noticed that stat too, because they were blown out by it was almost 20 points by Louisville.
Yeah. But you're gonna see Western Kentucky struggle. So we saw that 44.6% shooting, and there is a correlation. I'm not going to call it a causation in college basketball between poor assist numbers and poor shooting percentage numbers. And Western Kentucky only dishes 12.7 dimes a game,
Yeah.
but they turn it over 14.4. So what you're looking at there is a team that plays at a faster clip and does a lot of just ISO ball to see if they can score, and that's a good way to win games, but it's a good way to lose to athletes.
Right. But I think we will see them in the tournament.
They're a tournament team.
Yeah, I think they're going to win their conference, get the automatic bid into the tournament.
And then they probably win their first game because of the free throws.
Right, yeah. Honestly, they could be a good 12 seed upset.
Yeah.
Where I see Western Kentucky. I don't know if we're going to see them getting votes for the rest of the season.
Probably
not.
Depends on how high Alabama goes.
Two conference losses though, and I will kind of say that.
Yes, they could, as a mid-major, get into the top 25 with 4 losses, but that's really the cutoff, I feel like, for a mid-major team.
It depends on how high Alabama goes to look at that.
Yeah, if Alabama can take off in the SEC, they could.
It looks prettier.
One team I was really surprised, and we didn't talk about this because this was during the Christmas week where we didn't send out a video with this style. But one team I was really surprised to see getting votes, and it was just one singular vote in the top 25. And I think it was more because they were probably the only team at the time that had played 10 plus games because everyone else had their games canceled or postponed. Chattanooga, they right now 11-4, 2-4 within conference, and I think they were getting their 9 wins, 10 wins. That's why they were getting votes, is because this is the team with the most wins this season. That's honestly my thinking, because looking at their losses, Furman, VMI, Citadel, Wofford, and their only quality win I could really see was UAB. Which honestly, still my favorite college basketball logo ever.
But is that a quality? Well, okay.
Yeah.
UAB is top of their conference.
Yes.
That's all I can say about UAB.
But that's the most quality win I can see within there. So that's why I'm confused as to why they were getting a vote for the top 25. And I only think it was really because they had the most wins at the time.
Why did Duke stay ranked for so long?
Exactly, I know. And yeah.
It's the same answer. Because people are dumb and biased. An L is an L is an L is a you lost to Furman.
Yeah, and that's really why.
Citadel.
And that's really why they lost their rankings. Honestly, with those 4 losses, even VMI up there. But I guess their stats 75.
What is VMI? Vermont Motorcycle Institute?
Virginia Military Institute, by the way.
I like Vermont Motorcycle.
I do too. But I don't think they were going to be happy to hear that one. 44.9% from the field, 79.6% from the free throw line, 37.2 3-point percentage. They do have the stats, and even their assist to turnover ratio, 13 assists for 11.6 turnovers. I mean, it's overall yes. I believe that there's also been injuries from them this season, because when I look at their stats, there's only 5 guys that played in all 15 games. Whereas I think it was okay, these guys were going to have to be playing this game because these guys are injured, and then once they're healthy, you guys are going to get back to the bench.
Well, when you play games instead of canceling them, when you're down with the sickness, you got to do something with your guys who are down with the sickness. So you have injuries.
I didn't see anything listed this week to indicate that they had injuries, so I can't really confirm that, and I didn't really do much digging into what was going on this season with them, or if they were just experimenting with rotations.
They had injuries.
I honestly, again, I'm surprised Chattanooga was even ranked at one point, or even considered to be ranked.
A vote is a vote.
A singular 25 vote.
Honestly, they need to find that ballot, print it, and frame it
for them. So I guess moving on,
final thought on Chattanooga. I mean, unless if you win your conference, we'll talk about you, but
you're not winning your conference. You got 4 losses in that, buddy.
Yeah, not anytime soon. Next team, a team that honestly I'm surprised is not getting votes to an extent.
Although when we talk about one of their losses, I can see why they're not getting votes. But a team that was that I think is just going to be playing juggernaut offense the entire NCAA tournament. Richmond 9-3, 3-1 in the conference. Losses to West Virginia, St. Bonaventure, and a big loss to Hofstra, which I think is more of the reason why they aren't ranked.
Nate's not St. Bonnie?
St. Bonaventure is probably going to be a wild card in that conference.
Okay.
They're not going to make the tournament. I will say that, but I think that they could give a lot of losses to like Richmond. Who else is in that conference? St. Louis, Rhode Island, Davidson, Dayton. Like those are the teams that like I could see fighting against each other and giving each other losses.
All I have to say is that if Richmond doesn't recruit somebody named Peter Parker, I don't know what.
Shout out to the Spiders, just for the name. But big wins for Richmond on the season. Kentucky, again, is that a quality win this season anymore? Who knows?
No.
Win over Loyola Chicago. Again, they gave up a 20-point.
Fun fact,
lead in that
Kentucky
one.
has the worst record in the SEC.
Do they really right
They
now?
really do.
Overall?
Overall, they are 4-8. The
This
next
reminds-
team is 4-6.
Jeez, this reminds me of like North Carolina a couple of years ago. Like 2
When they were
years
just
ago.
like,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they had injuries that year. I would be fair to North Carolina on that one.
and they still played Duke close.
True. And still another quality win for Richmond. I'm just going to be going down the list within the conference, or not within the conference, but someone that we just kind of talked about, Loyola Chicago, and then within the conference, Davidson and URI, Rhode Island. Again, teams that I think that could just disrupt losses in the conference. Richmond on the season, 14.6 assists, 10.7 turnovers on the season, 48.8% field goal. Again, I think this is just going to be juggernaut offense because there is a lot of defensive issues. Last I checked, it was 301st opponent field goal percentage, so it's one of the highest opponent field goal percentages in the NCAA. And a scoring difference of 75.9 points to 70.3 points. So it's a lot of close games that they're facing.
So they're going to score on me, but I'm going to score on them.
Yes, essentially is what those points are. You may lose by about 5 points, but it's going to be a really close game, even with the 20-point lead they had in the second half against Loyola Chicago. That was still a 2-point win. So that's essentially what I see is the problems with Richmond.
So that's Loyola Chicago's fault for not winning.
Pretty much. There is some injuries for Richmond. Recently, Connor Crabtree out on December 30th. He's probably expected back late March. So unless they try to make a Sweet 16 run. With
If
foot
they make
injury,
the tournament, he comes back. If they don't make the tournament, he's out.
Yeah. But with a foot injury, and then Andre Gustafsson on January 9th, just recently. It's indefinite, it's illness. I don't know exactly, but it's an indefinite. He's indefinitely out. So I think Richmond, depending on if they get another loss within conference, I think they're going to get back into the votings. I think if they beat St. Louis, they will be back. Not maybe in the top 25, but in voting. Are you Colt?
I am not. I just do this. And so you have to deal with it. So, yeah, you're right. I think they get votes. I think they get into that almost famous category.
I think top 30.
Others
essentially.
receiving
Yeah.
votes, but that's about that.
And again, I think it's juggernaut offense for Richmond. You guys need to work on defense essentially, especially since I really want to see you guys in the Sweet 16. Because how awesome would it be to see a team that's nicknamed the Spiders in the Sweet 16? Moving on, a fellow WCC team, BYU, who has kind of bounced back and forth within the voting. I think earlier in the season they were not receiving votes and then got back to receiving votes, and then their loss to Gonzaga made them not receive any more votes. But
That's not fair.
it is.
Gonzaga beat BYU by about as much as they beat Kansas, and yet Kansas is still a top 10 team.
But BYU on the season 11-3, 2-1 within the conference. Losses to USC, Boise State, and Gonzaga. So essentially all teams that are either ranked or receiving votes. I think USC is still receiving the vote right now. Or at least at some point in time during the season, USC was receiving votes.
USC is one of the top top 13 or top 4 teams in the Pac-12. Boise State is a top team in the Mountain West, and Gonzaga is a
Number 1 team.
basically a professional team that hasn't been playing professional yet. And then their wins, they're beating Utah State, who is getting votes for no reason. If you look at their record, it's garbage. So yay, they're getting votes. They should get credit for beating them. Why are they getting votes? Anyway, Utah, another quality Pac-12 team.
Yeah.
Quality Pac-12. Then there's San Diego State, who was getting a lot of votes and was ranked. They were probably a little overranked, but they're still a top 50 KenPom team.
They're going to make the tournament for sure.
And then there's St. John's. They have several wins over tournament teams. But the 2 wins you didn't list, and I think the 2 most important wins for BYU right now is at San Francisco and at St. Mary's.
Right.
They have not won at both schools since joining the WCC.
Right, yeah, and I'll give them a lot of credit for doing that too, and it's definitely something to celebrate too, especially because, I mean, we said this last week, War Memorial Gym is a hard gym.
It's so fun.
It is, not when you are a Gonzaga fan. But again, with BYU's records on the season, it's great overall, I feel like, especially on the offensive end. I don't know, I think one stat I like the most, because I actually do need to make a correction to it, kinda. But 47.1% from the field, 16.4 assists, 44th most in NCAA. 10 guys averaging 10 plus minutes. And if you include Gavin Baxter, who is out for the season, he is also averaging 10 plus minutes. So kinda they had 11 guys averaging 10 plus minutes. Who's the coach again? I forget. It's
Mark Pope.
It's Pope. Yeah, Pope can just literally have like his starting roster and
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
and then make a hockey line change.
He did against us.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, because I remember Dan Dickow saying that. Yeah, so Mark Pope can literally make a hockey line change.
Do you know why? He has to keep them busy enough they can't go to the barbershop. Because have you seen their haircuts?
True. But one thing I will say about this, and when I first made these stats, they were actually worse than when I actually had to update them. But 13.9 turnovers. This used to be higher than 14, I think on Saturday last week.
So they had a clean game.
Yeah. And then 70% from the free throw line. It was actually a little bit below. I think it was 69.6% from the free throw line when I was checking it out. So it's definitely something that they do need to work on. But I forget who they played on.
Yeah,
Saturday.
they're 1% too high.
But again, injuries. Gavin Baxter is out for the season, so that's going to be. Any other year, I would say that's a big blow for BYU. But when you have 10 guys averaging 10 plus minutes a game, like, it's not that big of a blow. And why are you not getting votes? And 2, why did Joe Lunardi say that you have to have a play-in game?
And 3, you have 10 guys averaging 10 plus minutes. Why are you killing it on defense?
Yes.
Those guys have no excuse not to be playing so hard.
Yeah, especially like how much rest each guy get. And I think there's one guy maybe averaging 30 minutes, but like barely the cutoff.
TJ Haas?
Probably. Who knows?
Sorry. He's averaging 30 years on the team.
But I want to say there's one guy maybe averaging 30 minutes, but still there's a lot of guys averaging minutes. So I think BYU, I will say this, I think BYU should get votes at some point in time again during the season. However, I think because East Coast bias, I don't think that they're going to get votes.
If BYU ends up at like 7-2 or 8-2 in conference, and their only 2 losses are to Gonzaga, I think they get votes.
They should be getting votes.
Yeah, I think at that point they should be considered for the 25th.
And I think they should have a bid, pure and simple, in the top 25. I don't think that they should have that play-in game, which, by the way, you don't actually have a bid for the tournament if you have to do a play-in game. I don't care what you say.
Because you're
That's
not in the
that's
field of
not-
64.
Yeah.
You're in the
You're
field
not-
of 68, which
No.
is garbage.
No, because you're still playing into the bracket.
Yeah.
So I honestly think BYU should be getting a solid like 11 seed.
If you win your conference tournament, you should not have to play the play-in game.
No. And even with BYU this season, I don't think they should be doing the play-in. Even if it was it's actually against USC. Actually, is what their play-in game is. So guess who? Oh no, that was Richmond. Or who?
No, that was BYU. BYU lost to
Okay.
USC.
Oh, they lost to USC. That's where I was seeing it. So we'll see. We'll see. I definitely want to see BYU in the tournament.
Yeah.
And the final team that we just saw this last week, San Diego State, so far this season 9-4, 3-3 within the conference. Wins over UCLA, Arizona, Colorado State, and St. Mary's. But a loss to BYU, Colorado State as well, and they lost to Utah State twice.
So St. Mary's.
Do you want to not consider that the quality win?
They are 0-3 in the WCC. St. Mary's is no.
I'm just saying, at least for like teams that we
Team.
somewhat
Okay,
should
if we're
expect
playing the
to-
game of have you heard of this team before?
Yes,
Congratulations.
essentially was where I was going with that one.
But you know what? You know a team I've also heard of before? Grambling State. Do you know why I've heard of them? Because they went 0-40. So if you told me you had a win over Grambling State, I'd be like, good for you. So does literally everybody else. Now, mind you, that was like 2014, 2013, back when Kentucky was good. So, yeah.
But I would say this overall for San Diego State, it's definitely a very strong skill set on the defensive end. 7.9 steals per game, 62nd overall in the NCAA. 60.7 offensive opponent points per game, which is 13th fewest, last I checked. And then opponent field goal percentage, they're 33rd fewest, 39.3%. So it's definitely what you've been saying every time I bring up San Diego State is it's a defensive team, and rightfully so. They were getting votes during the season, and I think with those 3 losses within the conference, we're probably not going to see them in voting, but they should get into the tournament, I would say. I think it's going to be Boise State and San Diego State getting into the tournament.
If you want to see a team that has a play-in game,
Right, if we're going to be fair. And I think Joe Lenardi had San Diego State as a clear bid into the tournament versus BYU. And again, I think
apparently he wants to watch a snooze fest.
and I'm gonna keep arguing this come closer to tournament time. I think San Diego State and BYU should be getting bids where Pac-12 teams should be getting play-ins.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
Honestly, I want to see a Pac-12 play-in matchup again.
Hear me out. 3 seed, 14 seed, Virginia versus San Diego State.
Oh, the 3-14 for those two. God, defense all game. Like, are you
Bet the under. Whatever you do, bet the under.
I can see San Diego State getting
First team to 20 wins.
Honestly, I can see San Diego State getting to 62 points in that game, but Virginia's not going to break 60.
No, Virginia's going to get 62. San Diego State might break 50.
That's man. I don't know what I would say. Who's number 2 in the defense this year? Is it?
I don't even know if Virginia's number 1 right now.
No, I think they lost that, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I want to see San Diego State and BYU clearly into the tournament, not doing the play-in. So we'll see come tournament time what that's gonna be looking like. We'll definitely be giving kind of our predictions as to what's be going on once we get closer to that. Please subscribe to this channel. We will be doing a giveaway once we hit 50 subscribers. Please like this video. Please comment down below who you want to be seeing in the top 25 or getting votes in the top 25 from these mid-major teams. And until next time, please stay safe and please stay healthy.